IP Valuation Methods by Chris Kowalski. This presentation will discuss the requirements to prepare a valuation of a new technology. We will review the model being used, the associated information required to complete the valuation, and the expected impact or output from this model. As this is a new technology, we will use a cost approach model. As this is a new technology, it is very likely that very little information about the market is available. It is also likely that the costs to reproduce this technology are known. It is likely that this technology was recently developed, and most, if not all, costs will be relatively easy to determine. As part of the analysis, it will also be likely that we will be aware of competing technologies and the likelihood of obsolescence. All of these values will allow us to develop a maximum value that will be useful in future transactions. If we were aware of the market for this technology, or if there were similar IP available, we would be able to use a market-based approach. But since this is a new technology, we will assume that this type of IP is not available to compare to. If we were aware of the markets, or if we understood the markets that this IP would apply to, we could use an income approach model. Again, we will assume that this is not available since it's a new technology and little is known about future markets for this technology. Employee costs will not only include salaries, but also benefits and other employment costs. Indirect management costs should also be tabulated, keeping prorated to reflect their true involvement with the project. Material costs should include supplies and raw materials, as well as equipment, computers, and other tools required to complete the work. Overhead costs should be prorated to reflect the amount of facility costs consumed by the project, as well as utility costs such as electricity, heating, and communications that were needed to support the activities. License fees for software, technology, etc. should be factored in as well. Careful consideration should be paid to determine the opportunity costs. Delayed entry caused by not using the technology should be evaluated in both lost sales and the lower market values products tend to command when they are second or later to the market. By reviewing competing technologies, as well as the likelihood that superior technologies are in the development phases, the risk of obsolescence can be determined. It should be noted that the valuation cost should be determined as of today. If we are determining the value for possible litigation charges, we should determine what it would take to develop the technology in the time that it was developed. For example, if a software package exists today that would cut the development time in half, we should ignore that development and consider the cost as of the time before that software. All values should be prorated to today's current cost of salaries, utilities, license fees, etc. When all of these costs are collected, we'll have a picture of what it would cost to recreate the technology today. This will be useful to compare to competing technologies to decide whether or not acquiring a license or the IP itself would be warranted. This cost-based value will also be very useful in determining license fees or determining value for litigation or other types of business transactions with the technology. Thank you for your attention.